The Cleveland Browns organization just witnessed one of the most dramatic power shifts in recent NFL history, and what went down behind closed doors is absolutely explosive. Todd Monken, the new head coach who many questioned during a messy 24-day hiring process, just made a statement so loud that it's reverberating through every corner of the football world. He didn't just shuffle some assistant coaches around or make minor adjustments to appease critics. No. Todd Monken went straight for the jugular and completely dismantled the coaching infrastructure that Kevin Stefanski had carefully built over his tenure in Cleveland. Two key offensive coaches are gone, wiped out, erased from the organization like they never existed. And these weren't just random position coaches filling roster spots. These were Stefanski's hand-picked guys, his trusted lieutenants, the coaches he specifically chose to implement his offensive vision and develop the quarterback position. But here's where this story gets absolutely insane. These same coaches, the ones Stefanski vouched for and protected, were the exact people standing between Shedeur Sanders and his potential to become an elite NFL quarterback. The offensive line coach who presided over one of the most dysfunctional protection units in the entire league, gone. The passing game coordinator who ran a conservative, predictable, creativity-killing offensive scheme that made defenses look like they had the playbook in advance, also gone. And in their place, Todd Monken brought in Danny Langsdorf from Baltimore, a coordinator who understands modern offensive football, who knows how to unlock elite quarterback talent, and who comes from a system that helped turn Lamar Jackson into an MVP-caliber player. That move alone tells you everything you need to know about where this franchise is headed and how seriously Monken is taking the mission to maximize Shedeur Sanders. This wasn't a quiet off-season adjustment that gets buried in the back pages of the sports section. This was a full-scale organizational earthquake that sent shockwaves through the building. Kevin Stefanski, according to multiple sources close to the situation, absolutely lost control of what was happening. The coaches he believed in, the system he built, the philosophy he championed, all of it was being systematically destroyed right in front of him, and there was nothing he could do about it because he's no longer calling the shots in Cleveland. That power now belongs to Todd Monken, and Monken made it crystal clear from day one that he's not here to protect feelings, honor old loyalties, or preserve what came before. He's here to win football games, and he's willing to blow up whatever needs to be blown up to make that happen. Let's talk about what led to this moment, because this drama didn't just materialize out of thin air. This has been building for months, simmering beneath the surface while the Browns stumbled through one of the most disappointing seasons in recent memory. The offensive line was an absolute disaster. Missed assignments, blown protections, defenders flying into the backfield completely untouched on play after play. No quarterback can function in that environment, especially not a rookie who's still adjusting to NFL speed and trying to build confidence at the professional level. Shedeur Sanders showed remarkable toughness and poise considering the circumstances, but even the most talented young quarterback in the world can't succeed when the foundational elements around him are crumbling. And it wasn't just the protection issues, although those were bad enough on their own. The entire offensive philosophy under Stefanski's regime was painfully conservative, frustratingly predictable, and completely misaligned with Shedeur Sanders' actual skill set. This is a quarterback who processes information at lightning speed, who can read defensive coverages before the snap like he's studying a playbook, who has the arm talent to make every throw on the field, and who thrives when given the freedom to attack defenses aggressively. Instead, he was forced into a system that asked him to be a game manager, to play it safe, to check down, to avoid risks. It was like buying a Ferrari and then only driving it in school zones. Absolute waste of elite talent. The passing game coordinator situation was particularly egregious. The scheme was slow, methodical, and designed not to lose rather than designed to win. There was minimal creativity, almost no pre-snap motion to confuse defenses, very few layered route concepts that create natural separation, and practically zero vertical threats that force safeties to respect the deep ball. Defenses knew exactly what was coming because the same predictable concepts kept showing up week after week. That's not a recipe for offensive success in today's NFL. That's a recipe for stagnation, frustration, and wasted seasons. Todd Monken saw all of this happening and refused to let it continue for even one more day. He understood that if Shedeur Sanders was going to take the next step in his development, if he was going to transform from a promising rookie into a legitimate franchise quarterback, he needed a completely different environment. He needed structure and support up front from an offensive line that could actually protect him. He needed a scheme that played to his strengths rather than asking him to play a role that didn't fit. He needed coaches who believed in his talent and were committed to maximizing it rather than constraining it. And most importantly, he needed an organization that was fully committed to building around him as the centerpiece of the offense. That's exactly what Monken is providing. By firing the offensive line coach, he sent a clear message that the protection breakdowns that plagued last season are absolutely unacceptable and will not be tolerated moving forward. In the AFC North, where you're facing some of the most physical, aggressive defenses in the entire NFL, you simply cannot survive with a substandard offensive line. Baltimore brings relentless pressure from multiple angles. Pittsburgh's defense thrives on physical dominance and intimidation at the line of scrimmage. Cincinnati has edge rushers who can destroy game plans if left unchecked. Cleveland's offensive line was getting manhandled in those matchups, and Shedeur Sanders was paying the price. A strong, disciplined, well-coached offensive line isn't optional in this division. It's absolutely essential. It sets the tone for everything else on offense. It allows the run game to establish itself and control the clock. It gives the quarterback time to go through his progressions and make accurate throws. It creates confidence throughout the entire offense because players know they have the protection and support they need to execute at a high level. Without it, everything falls apart. The run game becomes ineffective. The passing game shrinks to quick throws and checkdowns, and the quarterback becomes a sitting target waiting to get hit. That's not sustainable, and Monken wasn't about to let that dynamic continue. Then there's the complete overhaul of the passing game philosophy, which might be even more significant than the offensive line changes. Bringing in Danny Langsdorf from Baltimore is an absolutely brilliant move that shows Monken understands exactly what kind of offense Shedeur Sanders needs to thrive. The Baltimore system that Langsdorf comes from is built on creativity, unpredictability, tempo, and aggressive play calling. It's an offense that attacks defenses from every possible angle, using motion, misdirection, multiple formations, and layered route concepts to create confusion and force mistakes. It's an offense that trusts the quarterback to make plays and gives him the tools and freedom to do exactly that. Compare that to what Shedeur Sanders was dealing with last season, and the contrast is absolutely stark. Under the previous passing game coordinator, the offense felt like it was stuck in cement. Routes took forever to develop. There was minimal creativity in the play design. The quarterback was asked to make conservative decisions and avoid turnovers rather than attack weak points in the defense. For a player with Shedeur's talent and football IQ, that approach was suffocating. It was like putting handcuffs on a sprinter and then asking why he's not winning races. Langsdorf's system is designed to do the exact opposite. It's built to highlight everything that makes Shedeur Sanders special. His ability to diagnose coverages pre-snap, his accuracy on timing routes, his confidence throwing into tight windows, his pocket presence and ability to manipulate defenders with his eyes. All of those elite traits can finally be maximized in an offensive system that's actually designed for a quarterback with his skill set. This isn't about dumbing things down or limiting the playbook. This is about building an offense that's sophisticated, aggressive, and perfectly tailored to what the quarterback does best. Now let's address the elephant in the room, which is the fan reaction to all of this, because Browns fans, understandably, have been skeptical about Todd Monken from the beginning. And honestly, who can blame them? This fan base has been burned so many times over the last 2 decades that trusting any new hire feels like setting yourself up for disappointment. The coaching search process itself was a mess. It dragged on for 24 long days with conflicting reports about who the front office actually wanted. General Manager Andrew Berry had his preferred candidates. Owner Jimmy Haslam was pushing for different names. The whole thing felt disorganized, divided, and uncertain. When Todd Monken finally emerged as the choice, it didn't feel like a home run hire to a lot of people. It felt like a compromise, like the organization couldn't agree on their top choice, so they settled on someone in the middle. That's not exactly the kind of beginning that inspires confidence. Add to that the ghosts of failed coaching hires from Cleveland's past, names like Freddie Kitchens and Hugh Jackson that still make fans cringe, and you can understand why there was hesitation about Monken. But here's the thing, everything that's happened since Monken took the job has shown that he's not here to play it safe or go through the motions. This is a coach who moved with immediate urgency and authority. He didn't spend weeks getting acclimated or trying to make everyone comfortable. He identified the problems, made decisive moves to fix them, and completely restructured the offensive coaching staff around a clear vision for Shedeur Sanders. That's not the behavior of a placeholder coach or someone who's uncertain about what needs to be done. That's leadership. The message that Monken is sending is loud and unmistakable. This offense is being built around Shedeur Sanders, period. Not as a maybe, not as a wait-and-see situation, not with a bunch of contingency plans in case it doesn't work out. Shedeur Sanders is the franchise quarterback, and every single decision, from coaching hires to scheme design to personnel moves, is going to be made with the goal of maximizing his talent and putting him in the best possible position to succeed. That represents a fundamental shift in how this organization operates. For too long, the Browns have hedged their bets at the quarterback position. They've brought in veterans as insurance policies. They've run conservative offenses designed not to put too much pressure on the quarterback. They've made decisions based on fear of failure rather than confidence in their talent. Todd Monken is flipping that script entirely. He's saying, we have a special talent at quarterback, we believe in him completely, and we're going all in on building around him. That's exactly the kind of commitment that franchise quarterbacks need to reach their full potential. Kevin Stefanski's reaction to all of this has been telling. In the press conferences and media availability, since these coaching changes were announced, you can see the frustration and disappointment written all over his face. When asked about the staff changes, his responses were clipped and defensive. He talked about not concerning himself with outside things and staying committed to development, but the subtext was clear. His vision for the offense was being completely dismantled, and there was nothing he could do about it. The power dynamic had shifted entirely. There was one particular moment that really crystallized the tension. A reporter asked Stefanski about a sideline interaction with Shedeur Sanders late in a game last season where Shedeur appeared to be lobbying to stay in for a 2-minute drill, but was pulled in favor of backup quarterback Snoop. The reporter described Shedeur walking up to Stefanski, saying something, and Stefanski shaking his head before sending in the backup. When asked what that exchange was about, Stefanski's response was curt and dismissive. He called Shedeur a competitive kid and said the plan was to give the backup some work, but he clearly didn't want to discuss it further. That moment, which seemed minor at the time, actually represents everything that was wrong with the Stefanski-era approach to Shedeur Sanders. Here you have a young quarterback who wants to compete, who wants to be on the field in crucial situations, who wants the opportunity to lead the team in high-pressure moments. And instead of embracing that competitiveness and giving him those valuable reps, the coaching staff pulled him in favor of a backup who had no realistic future with the franchise. What message does that send to your supposed franchise quarterback? It tells him that the coaching staff doesn't fully trust him, that they're more concerned with getting other guys reps than with his development, that his role is limited and conditional. And Todd Monken would never handle that situation the same way. And that's why this coaching change matters so much. Monken comes from an offensive philosophy that empowers the quarterback, that gives him ownership of the offense, that puts him in positions to make plays and learn from both successes and failures. That's how you develop elite quarterbacks. You don't coddle them, you don't pull them from important situations, you trust them, you coach them, you give them the tools and scheme to succeed, and then you let them grow through experience. The offensive line situation under Stefanski was perhaps the most damning indictment of his coaching regime. Throughout the entire season, the Browns' offensive line was one of the worst in the NFL at protecting the quarterback. Pass rushers were getting home untouched. Stunts and blitzes were creating confusion. Communication breakdowns led to free runners at the quarterback. And week after week, nothing changed. The same problems kept happening. The same mistakes kept getting repeated, and Shedeur Sanders kept getting pressured and hit at an unsustainable rate. For a rookie quarterback, that kind of environment is absolutely devastating to development. Confidence erodes when you're constantly under pressure. Bad habits form when you're rushing through your progressions because you know the pocket is about to collapse. You start seeing ghosts and feeling phantom pressure even when it's not there. Your internal clock speeds up to an unhealthy degree. Your mechanics break down because you're bracing for hits. All of these things compound and can permanently damage a young quarterback's development trajectory. Todd Monken recognized this immediately and took swift action. By firing the offensive line coach and bringing in someone new with fresh ideas and accountability, he's sending a message to the entire offensive line room. The standard is higher now. The expectations are greater. Mediocrity will not be tolerated. And most importantly, your job is to protect Shedeur Sanders and give him the time and space he needs to operate the offense. That's non-negotiable. The scheme changes that Langsdorf brings from Baltimore are going to be transformative for this offense. Instead of the static, predictable formations that define the Stefanski era, expect to see constant motion, multiple personnel groupings, and creative play designs that force defenses to defend the entire field. Instead of asking Shedeur to manage the game and avoid mistakes, the new scheme will empower him to attack aggressively and trust his reads. Instead of limiting the playbook to safe, low-risk concepts, Langsdorf will implement a diverse, multiple offense that keeps defenses guessing and creates natural advantages through scheme. This is particularly important in the AFC North, where defenses are sophisticated and well-coached. You can't just line up and try to out-execute these teams with vanilla concepts. You need to create confusion, stress defenders' responsibilities, and force them to make decisions in space. The Baltimore offense that Langsdorf comes from did exactly that. They used heavy play action to freeze linebackers. They used motion to identify coverage and create leverage advantages. They used two tight end sets to create mismatches and dictate defensive personnel. They attacked vertically to keep safeties honest and open up the underneath game. All of those concepts play directly to Shedeur Sanders' strengths. He's exceptional at reading defensive leverages pre-snap and identifying where the advantage is going to be. He's accurate throwing to all levels of the field, from quick screens to deep posts. He processes information quickly enough to handle complex schemes with multiple reads and progressions, and he's confident enough to attack tight windows and trust his arm talent. For the first time in his NFL career, Shedeur is going to be in an offensive system that actually matches his skill set instead of fighting against it. The psychological impact of these changes cannot be overstated. Imagine being a young quarterback who spent an entire rookie season feeling like the coaching staff didn't fully believe in you, like the scheme wasn't designed for your strengths, like you were being set up to fail rather than succeed. That takes a toll mentally and emotionally. It creates doubt and uncertainty. It makes you question whether you actually belong at this level. Now imagine having a complete reset where a new coaching staff comes in and says, "We believe in you completely. We're building everything around you. We're going to give you the tools and support you need to be great." That's transformative. You can already see the difference in Shedeur's demeanor and body language. In interviews since the coaching changes were announced, he's noticeably more relaxed, more confident, more excited about what's coming. That's not an accident. That's what happens when a player feels genuinely supported and believed in by his coaching staff. When you know that the organization is fully committed to your success and willing to make the necessary changes to support that success, it changes everything. The weight comes off your shoulders. The pressure transforms from negative to positive. The fear of failure gets replaced by excitement about opportunity. Todd Monken's willingness to make these drastic changes also sends a powerful message to the rest of the locker room. It shows that this organization is serious about winning and willing to make difficult decisions to get there. It shows that no one's job is safe if they're not performing at the required level. It shows that the franchise quarterback is the most important person in the building, and everything else revolves around setting him up for success. That clarity of vision and purpose is exactly what successful organizations have and what Cleveland has lacked for so long. The comparison to other successful quarterback development situations around the league is striking. Look at how teams like Kansas City handled Patrick Mahomes, or how Cincinnati developed Joe Burrow, or how the Chargers built around Justin Herbert. In every case, the organization made a clear commitment to the quarterback, hired coaches who could maximize his talents, built schemes around his strengths, and gave him the weapons and protection he needed to succeed. They didn't hedge, they didn't waver, they didn't second guess. They went all in, and it worked. Cleveland is finally taking that same approach with Shedeur Sanders, and it's about time. For years, this organization has been stuck in a cycle of mediocrity because they refuse to fully commit to anyone or anything. They'd draft a quarterback but surround him with an inadequate supporting cast. They'd hire a coach but not give him the resources he needed. They'd implement a scheme but not stick with it long enough for it to work. That wishy-washy middle ground approach never works in the NFL. You have to pick a direction and commit to it fully. Monken is doing exactly that. Every move he's made since taking the job points in the same direction. Build around Shedeur Sanders. Maximize his talent. Create an environment where he can thrive. It's simple, clear, and exactly what this franchise needs. The fact that it required blowing up Stefanski's entire offensive coaching staff to make it happen shows just how far off course things had gotten under the previous regime. Now let's talk about what all of this means for the upcoming season, because the implications are massive. With Langsdorff installing a new offensive scheme built around Shedeur's strengths, with a new offensive line coach demanding higher standards and better protection, with a coaching staff that's fully committed to the quarterback's development, the ceiling for this offense is sky high. We're not talking about incremental improvement. We're talking about the potential for a complete transformation from one of the league's most disappointing offenses to a unit that can legitimately compete with anyone. The weapons are already in place. The Browns have talented receivers who can win one-on-one matchups. They have running backs who can stress defenses and create play-action opportunities. They have tight ends who can work the middle of the field and create mismatches. What they've been missing is the scheme and coaching to put all those pieces together in a coherent, aggressive offensive system. That's exactly what Monken and Langsdorff bring to the table.